Hello and welcome to our webinar, Debut Authors, Debut Titles. I'm Donna Seaman, Adult Books Editor at Booklist. Before we begin, I'd like to go over some technical details. Links to today's slide presentation and title list were included in the reminder email you received from Zoom. To download them, please open that email, scroll to the bottom, and click on the links located there. You can also download the slides and title list by copying the URLs on the screen into your web browser. The audience is in listen-only mode, but we welcome any questions you may have. On the bottom of your screen is a toolbar. Look for the Q&A. If you have a question or need technical assistance, simply click Q&A and type your message into the box. We will do our best to respond to all tech-related questions, and we will pass along all other questions to today's panelists so they can follow up with you after the webinar. And last but not least, Booklist offers closed captioning on all our webinars. To enable or disable captions on your screen, please look for and click on the live transcript icon on the toolbar. From there, you can select Show or Hide Subtitles from the menu that appears. If you choose to enable subtitles, you can adjust the size of the captions at any time by selecting Subtitle Settings. Links to today's slides were sent directly to you from Zoom at the start of the webinar, but you can also download them at any time by copying the URLs on the screen. Tomorrow, you will receive a follow-up email containing links to today's slide presentation, all the titles covered, certificate of completion, and the video recording. All right, today we have the pleasure of hearing from Samantha Slavin, Marketing Coordinator at Macmillan Library Marketing, Valerie Baeza, author of Story of My Life, and Virginia Stanley, Director of Marketing, HarperCollins Publishers. I'll also be sharing an early look at Booklist's top 10 first novels list for 2021. So first up is Samantha Slavin. Samantha is the Library Marketing Coordinator for Macmillan Library Marketing. Samantha owes her love of books to years of library visits and can always be found with a book, whether it's a memoir, historical fiction, fantasy, or contemporary fiction. Welcome, Samantha.
Hello, thank you. Hi, everyone. I am Samantha Slavin, Macmillan's Library Marketing Coordinator. I am a huge debut lover. I have a little segment on our website called the Debut Review, so be sure to check that out. We feature author interviews and Q&As and everything fun. So I am extremely excited to share some of our amazing upcoming titles with you. But before we get to the books, here are all the various ways you can get in touch with us. We love hearing from you, so please reach out. Next slide. If you would like to download Macmillan eGalleys on Edelweiss, here's how. These instructions can also be found on our website. Next. And be sure to check out our candid reviews of our YA titles at Days YA on our website. And if you love genre fiction or are ready to try something new, check out Genre for All on the website for exclusive content, giveaways, recommendations, and more, all focused on fantasy, sci-fi, romance, and horror. And now to the books. First up is Four Treasures of the Sky by Jenny Jingwai Chong. This is set against the backdrop of the Chinese Exclusion Act about a Chinese girl fighting to claim her place in the 1880s American West. It is homegoing because it's a powerful, sweeping historical novel about family and the forces that shape us. It is Anna North's Outlawed because it offers a reimagining of the American Western genre and adventure story, showcasing new voices and untold stories. And it is Jacqueline Woodson's Red at the Bone because it is a classic coming-of-age tale intertwined with class, race, family history, and status. Next. Olga Dies Dreaming by Zocho Gonzalez is a lead title for Flatiron Books that was won at a big auction. It follows a status-driven wedding planner, unlucky in love, torn between her old neighborhood and her career as she grapples with an absent mother, her glittering career amongst New York's elite, and her Puerto Rican roots in the wake of Hurricane Maria. This is Crazy Rich Asians meets The Vanishing Half, and it is coming to Hulu in fall 2022 as a TV series. We recently had Zocho Gonzalez speak at our Winter 22 preview, and it is so worth going back and watching if you haven't already. You can find an archive video link on our website for that. Next. The Ballerinas by Rachel Kapelke Dale. This is a stunning page-turning suspense all about the world of ballet. Sharp and feminist, The Ballerinas invites readers to get an inside look into the intensity of the art and the illusion of the beauty that must be preserved. Set in Paris, The Ballerinas invokes romance and elegance. It's timely and provocative with themes such as the complexities of friendship, sexual politics, and a Me Too inspired scandal. The author also lives in Paris and is a former ballerina, so she is extremely connected to the world that she writes about. This is perfect for fans of Black Swan, The Life Between Us, and with a twist like that from Big Little Lies. This was the first fall 21 title that I read, and I still can't stop thinking about it. It's great for all readers who want a sneak peek into the glamour and hardships of a world filled with such perfection. Next. The Ark by Torrey Henwoodhoen is a witty and funny novel reminiscent of Curtis Sittenfeld's Eligible because it is a comedy of manners. It is After I Do because Happily Ever After is just the beginning. It is In 5 Years because it's about one woman's unforgettable date with destiny. And it's When Harry Met Sally because it has all the magic and allure of New York City. The Ark is a highly secretive matchmaking service that offers lifelong compatibility, but what happens after your wish is granted? And there's an amazing twist that will have you hooked until literally the last sentence. This book was such a fun take on a romance that brings in modern day technology, but completely one-ups it. Next, Bad Luck Bridesmaid by Alison Rose Greenberg. First and foremost, this is not a rom-com, you've been warned. Bad Luck Bridesmaid offers a modern take on Happily Ever After that celebrates self-love and living your truth, and is about a cursed bridesmaid whose brides never seem to make it all the way down the aisle. She gets one more chance when her best friend decides she's marrying a guy she just met. But as wedding planning goes on, she's plagued with more questions than answers. Can you be a free spirit yet still want a certain future? Can you love and be loved on your own terms? And how do you wrangle a bossy falcon into doing your bidding? Next. Reputation by Lex Croucher is Bridgerton crossed with Gossip Girl, crossed with Jane Austen, with a splash of Mean Girls, aka all the best things. This is a Regency era rom-com set against the backdrop of lavish parties and an unforgettable summer filled with sex, consent, belonging, and status. I completely felt as if I was dressed in a huge ball gown being taken around in a horse-drawn carriage while reading this. But my favorite part was how the characters all dealt with their troubles with such a feminist touch. Next, A Flicker in the Dark by Stacy Willingham. This thrilling and original story asks, what would you do if you found out that your father was a serial killer? A Flicker in the Dark is The Wife Upstairs because it is atmospheric suspense infused with Southern charm. It's Girl A because it's about a haunted family history that can't be outrun. It is Sharp Objects because there are unsolved disappearances that hit too close to home. It's The Whisper Man because the town's past crimes unnervingly echo into the present. And it is All the Missing Girls because a woman's perfect future is interrupted by old wounds. This has been a departmental favorite over at Macmillan Library Marketing, and every single person I've handed to has absolutely loved it. It's a complete read in one sitting type of thriller. Next. Pageant Road by Samantha Jane Allen is a small town mystery set in Texas about recent college grad Annie. She returns home to waitress and finds some direction, but when she is lured into the private investigation family business by her grandfather, she can't say no. A waitress at Annie's cafe goes missing, taking Annie and her grandfather on an investigation down dark roads and through glowing honky-tonks. Samantha Jane Allen grew up in small town Texas, so this novel really captures the setting, characters, and gossip that takes the streets. She is also now a full-time bookseller in Atlanta, Georgia. Pageant Road is perfect for fans of the dry because murder arises when the main character returns to their hometown. For fans of Sworn to Silence because a tight-knit community is turned upside down, and Friday Night Lights because it's a small Texas town filled with big-time secrets. Next. Bone Orchard is a dark Gothic fantasy in which a dying emperor charges his favorite concubine, who also happens to be a necromancer, with solving his own murder and preventing the culprit, which undoubtedly is one of his 3 terrible sons, from taking control of an empire. Gothic fantasy is on the rise with popularity of authors like Tamsin Muir and Alex Harrow, and Bone Orchard has all those timeless themes of identity, sacrifice, and inheritance amidst the backdrop of cutthroat succession, politics, and sex, reminiscent of what made HBO's Game of Thrones such a runaway hit. Next, Last Resort by Andrew Lipstine. Andrew Lipstine is a young New Yorker, very familiar with the editorial and coder characters he writes about. This is a thrilling story of fame, fortune, and impossible choices with Caleb, an aspiring writer too smart for his own good. When Caleb's manuscript captures the attention of the literary agent, he sees a bright future. But then his college rival gets a hold of Caleb's second book, and Avi, the rival, sees nothing but theft, as Avi was the book's inspiration. Fans of Take Me Apart and Indelicacy will love this rager-edged account of authenticity and burning bridges. Next. A Tiny Upward Shove by Melissa Chadbourne has already received 16 author blurbs. It's about a young woman named Marina who is dead and transformed into a mythical creature. She must now kill or die because she was murdered by a serial killer and has unfinished business. This is a queer coming-of-age story inspired by Filipino folklore, as Chadbourne is Asian American and imbued with magical realism. It's about the throwaways and the forgotten members of society, and Chadbourne was also in the foster care system herself. Next. A Very Nice Girl by Imogen Crimp stars an ambitious young opera singer caught between devotion to her craft and an all-consuming affair with an older man. Anna knows she's talented, but has never exactly found her place. When she meets Max at the expensive bar where Anna sings jazz at night, she finds herself desperate to hold his attention despite the 14-year age gap. Just when Anna's career begins to demand her undivided attention, Max does too, leaving Anna to have to decide what or who she truly wants. This is an exploration of female friendship, sexuality, ambition, and the addicting dangers of youth. A Very Nice Girl has all the grit and humor of Luster, Otessa Moshfegh, and Ling Ma, with a millennial woman making her way in the world. We also get a very inside glimpse into the world of opera, just like Sweet Bitter did for the New York culinary scene. Next. Good Intentions by Kasim Ali is Big Sick meets Nick Hornby. At the heart, this is the story of an interracial relationship, shedding light on the challenges and beauty that many readers will be able to relate to. It's about a young man who has hidden a romance from his parents and is unable to choose between familial obligations and the future he truly wants. Kasim Ali perfectly captures what it means to come of age during the early 2000s amidst racial tensions and shifting societal views. It touches on conflicting dynamics of family, culture, and identity. Good Intentions is perfect for readers of Memorial, Queenie, and Una Out of Order. Next. Chevy in the Hole is a gorgeous story following multiple generations of two families in Flint, Michigan, with a contemporary love story at its center. This is a timely tale that deals with opioid addiction, economic and racial inequality, the economic decline of the middle of the country, and the news cycle of America. The author lost her husband to opioid addiction in her early 20s, so this book is her way of taking her experience with the tragedy and making it into something beautiful. Next. The Bartender's Cure by Wesley Stratton is sweet bitter because of its character-driven story set in the service industry. It is writers and lovers because it's about a girl finding herself and beautifully dealing with hardship after her life takes an unexpected turn. Not only is this a story of bartending, but it is also an ode to all the neighborhood bars that had to close their doors in the wake of COVID. It's a love letter to the bars and the communities that they provided and created. Filled with cocktail recipes and tips throughout, this is the story of Sam. After going through a breakup and breakdown in California, she defers law school, moves to New York City, and crashes on her best friend's couch. She gets a job at a beloved neighborhood bar, a job she definitely does not want, and one that will certainly only be temporary, she tells herself. But then this new community draws her in, and Sam has to decide if she's willing to let go to finally belong. Next. The Favor by Nora Murphy is Girl on the Train because a woman becomes entangled in an investigation. It's behind closed doors because we never truly know what happens behind closed doors. It is Gone Girl because of the he said, she said thrill. And it's Big Little Lies because little lies can turn into something much worse. This gripping novel of domestic suspense is the story of Leah and McKenna. Their marriages seem perfect from the outside, but their beautiful homes and big cars are just a picture perfectly painted by their husbands. Though Leah and McKenna have never met, they are living parallel lives. Author Nora Murphy brings her professional experience to this story, as she is a family attorney specializing in domestic abuse and control, and B.A. Paris calls this one taut, compelling, and deliciously dark. Next, Dirt Creek. For fans of two of my personal favorites, Blacktop Wasteland and We Begin at the End, comes a brilliant LGBTQIA+ novel of a classic small-town disappearance story. 12-year-old Esther disappears on her way home from school in rural Australia. The town is overcome by grief and worry, bringing in Detective Sarah Michaels. Sarah and Esther's best friend Ronnie will do anything to find out what really happened to Esther. Dirt Creek explores the ties that bind, what we try and leave behind us, and what we can never outrun, while being a mystery that focuses on the ins and outs of community. And my next and last is Other Names for Love. This is a brilliant and seductive queer coming-of-age story about desire, alternating between the voices of a powerful father and his repressed son. It is a hypnotic novel about what men mean to each other and the meaning of masculinity. Set in a spellbinding rural estate in upcountry Pakistan, Fahad hopes to spend the summer with his mother in London, but Rafiq has other plans in the hopes to toughen up his sensitive son, enlisting Ali, a local teenage boy. But Rafiq's plan backfires when Fahad and Ali find an attraction blooming. Inspired by the author's own life and written with a sense of intimacy, beauty, and uncommon urgency, Other Names for Love is a deeply original story for fans of Call Me By Your Name, Garth Greenwell, A Burning, and of Woman and Salt. Next slide. And that is all for me. Thank you again so much for tuning in. Here is all of our contact info. So please feel free to reach out with any questions or anything, and enjoy the rest of the webinar.
Thank you, Samantha. That was a lot of titles. Very exciting. All right. So we have a special appearance today by Valerie Baeza. Valerie is a member of the Southwest Writers and the New Mexico Book Association. Valerie is fervent about fiction and poetry. She is a natural storyteller and a poet. She was a highly sought after writer for her advocacy as a feature writer for New Mexico Film News. Valerie lives in Albuquerque, New Mexico with her dogs, Allie and Carter, by her side, and she relishes the opportunity to hit mountain trails. Well, here in Chicago, that all sounds very enticing. You may visit her website at valeriebaezaauthor.com, and please follow her on social media. Welcome to the webinar, Valerie.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for your time. Next. Next again. So I am Valerie Baeza, and as Anna was saying, I am here in Albuquerque, New Mexico, in the lovely land of enchantment. And these are my two dogs, my riding buddies, Alistair and Carter. These past few years since we started writing Story of My Life, it's been a long journey, and learned a whole lot about, these characters especially. But I wanted to give you a little bit about me. I do love to hike, and I did incorporate that into my writing as well. Anything about heart and the human condition. I like to incorporate that as well. Next, please. So what inspired my novel, Story of My Life, was a scene it kind of came to my mind. Just like you see a scene in a film, you're just following the character. I didn't see his face. I didn't hear his voice. I didn't know anything about him. The only thing, I just knew that he wanted to kill himself. The scene was, he's walking, it's late in the night. He's walking up a hill and there's stars out. And that's all I knew about him, is that he wanted to kill himself. And so that's what drew me into his story, was figuring out why would this man in particular want to kill himself? And as I said earlier, anything about heart and the human condition, that's what I kind of gravitate towards. And so that's where the story evolved from, was just this question. My own curiosity is, why would this particular man, what would drive him to that circumstance? Next, please. Next, please. And this first character, his name is Garance Leitner. He is an Englishman in his early 40s. He's a travel writer. He had everything, you know. He worked his tail off in this industry to kind of corner the travel marketing industry all on his own. And then he meets this woman next on a trip in Chile. Her name is Sabina Mondragon, and she has a dark past, and she doesn't like surprises, and she doesn't like talking things out. And so there's a lot of tension between her and Garance because he likes to talk things out and kind of get to the essence of what's going on between them and what's going on with her. And so they fall in love in Chile, and they move to England, and that's where their love story kind of takes off. And so this story is not only about an Englishman looking for a reason to live. He is going through the handwritten letters that he exchanged with not only Sabina, but with a second woman. Next. And her name is Shalise Bonner. She is an American, and what these characters all stand for is they're all looking for something in common. Garance is looking for a reason to live. Sabina is going through all the hardships. She's kind of going through all the traumas that she's endured. And within the relationship, going through those life events together. And then she passes, and it throws Garance for a loop. And that's why he goes into depression and wants to take his life. But when he meets Shalise, she is like the light at the end of the tunnel. She is a very good friend to him. She is there for him. She's very patient with him. Doesn't require any explanation. She's just this calming spirit for him, this broken man. And she's there for him when he really needs her. And this novel has a dual timeline. There's a present timeline where you are following Garance as he's packing his home, all the lovely keepsakes that him and Sabina had collected over the years as they were traveling together and building a life together. And he comes across this luggage of letters, handwritten letters that he exchanged between these two women. And as he's looking for a reason to live, he's looking for that within these letters. And he's also reliving the events in his past, the good and the bad. So that kind of takes him, it fills in the reader, it brings in the reader into all the life events that most people go through throughout their lives. And you go through the journey of what he went through, what Sabina went through, what Shalise is going through. It's a lovely story of love and hope. Next, please. But the main message, not only, it's not all grim, it is about the human condition. This is sincerely a devotion to the human condition. But the number one message throughout this novel is love. And that is the one thing that we are all here in this reality looking for is love, whether it's love for your family, self-love, love in your career and your craft. But these characters are all looking for love. And that's certainly what is driving Garance through all the hardships that he has endured. He's looking for love and he can't find it because this woman is gone. And he has a friend and someone who eventually falls in love with him, yes. But he's coming to terms with that. And there are a lot of beautiful moments in this novel between the characters and Garance on his own journey, his own art. Next, please. This novel went through thorough edits, starting with a developmental edit with Kyra Nelson. And this story novel is upmarket fiction. It is a blend between The Time Traveler's Wife and Eleanor Oliphant is Completely Fine. And I really wanted a delicate blend between internal conflict and external conflict. Excuse me. And my developmental editor really helped me dig deep into the essence of this novel. I worked on it for 2 years on my own. I thought I knew everything about it inside and out, you know, the characters, what they're telling me their story. And gosh, Kyra really had me dig deep, and she gave me the tools to dig even deeper. So that was a very, very beautiful moment to kind of learn more about Garance as well. And I went through a copy edit as well and hired a professional book cover designer named Dominique Dragoon, who's also my typesetter. She held both skills. And I had a vision with this novel because it is epistolary. There are novels throughout, from the first chapter all the way to the end. There are letters between all the characters. And I had told Dominique, like, I really want this book to come alive. I want people read this story, not only understand, you know, the external conflict, what's going on in their lives, what's going on for them, but also what's going on in their minds. And I really want it to come across on the page as the reader is reading it, to kind of feel like they're a part of this journey with Garance as he's traveling back through his life and reliving these life events. And as I look at the novel, she did a very, very beautiful job. I may become emotional, but she did a very beautiful job bringing these characters to life, and all the different handwritings that each of the characters have are depicted. So you really do get a sense of their individualism and kind of make them feel more alive to you, as they have done for me these past few years. And also within the edits was a proofread. I hired an actual English woman, Sarah Magnus, who put the finishing polish on this novel. She truly did. I wanted Garance to be truly authentic English. You know, I'm, like many other people, have a fondness for English culture, but I can only do so much with what I do watch. And so I really looked to her to kind of replace the Americanisms with British phrasing. We kept the American spelling and punctuation, but she really kept a keen eye out for replacing all the Americanisms, like replacing trash with rubbish and lift and everything that I didn't even think of, like I thought I caught, and things I just don't know because I'm an American. So to make Garance feel truly authentic, the main character, she really worked her magic and kept her eye out for those kind of things. And next, please. And the reason I'm here is because I know the importance of libraries and booksellers, not just for my book, but because I grew up with that in my household. And one memory would be my paternal grandmother, Lourdes Baeza, who recently passed. But growing up, she took my siblings and I to the local library in Bosque Farms, New Mexico. And I remember the first book I picked up was Ursula K. Le Guin's The Earthsea Trilogy. And from there, I just loved reading. I loved fiction in particular. And so I know like what that impact is for any reader at a young age, young adult, an elderly person, what the library and bookstores mean to our community and to literature. And it would be an honor if Garance was a part of that foundation. Next, please. And that is my presentation. And I wanted to thank you for your time again. And I really hope that you fall in love with the story of my life as much as I have cherished writing it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Valerie. And now for Virginia Stanley, it's a rather adorable photograph. Virginia is the Director of Library Marketing at HarperCollins Publishers. She has been with the company since 1988, working with editorial, marketing, and publicity directors to get books and authors into libraries. Virginia heads up the Library Love Fest team, where they host a weekly online show called Door to Door, interviewing authors and talking about must-read books. Welcome, Virginia.
Thank you, Donna. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Excellent. Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. I thank you all so much for coming to hear us talk about our books today. And I have a bunch, so I'm going to jump right in. So next slides, please. These are all our social media. You know how to get in touch with us, Library Love Fest, or shoot us an email. We'll whitelist you for e-galleys, newsletter, the whole Megillah. So please join and learn more about our books. Next, please. And Door to Door, every Tuesday, we interview an author. Today, we're interviewing David Pomerico, who is the editorial director of Voyager. So he's talking all about sci-fi fantasy today. In fact, he's doing it from his car on the side of the road. We also just blew out some candles for Wanda Morris's book, which went on sale today, All Her Little Secrets. If you haven't read it, you should. It's the #1 Library Reads pick for November, and it's a debut. Next, please. And here we go with the books. Remarkably Bright Creatures by Shelby Van Pelt. I love this book so much. This was sold to Echo, which is an imprint of Harper, in a very heated auction. And it's sold to 6 other territories around the world and growing. It's about a widow who, and I don't like to read, what you have on the slide there, because you can see that. So I'm just going to give you the bare bones of this book, which is about a woman named Tova Sullivan whose husband has died. She's trying to fill the void. So she starts working the night shift at this aquarium. It takes place in Seattle. She's mopping floors, she's tidying up, she's doing anything to, stay busy. And her 18-year-old son, Eric, had mysteriously vanished 30 years ago. So now with the death of her husband, she's bereft and a lot of time on her hands. And so this is what she's doing, working at this aquarium. And as she's working there, she becomes acquainted with this giant octopus who lives at the aquarium. His name is Marcellus, and he doesn't think of it as living there. He's really captured there, and he hates it there. And the book is told at times from his point of view, and it's very funny. And he's very smart. And he knows more than anyone can imagine, but wouldn't dream of lifting one of his 8 tentacles for his human captors until he forms an unlikely friendship with Tova. And so this is the story of their relationship. And it's a mystery because her son had gone missing so many years ago, and because Marcellus is an octopus and he's brilliant, and he is ever the detective, he deduces what may have happened to her son. This is compulsively readable. If you loved Kevin Wilson's Nothing to See Here, you will just love this book. It's everyone's in love with it. It's great for book clubs, and octopuses are everywhere. So you've got to read this book. Please tell me what you think. That's Remarkably Bright Creatures. Next is Garden Variety by Christy Wilhelm. This is for fans of authors like Annie England Noblin. If you thought community gardening was nothing but pulling weeds and planting seeds, think again. In this fresh and delightful debut, Christy Wilhelm shows that there's more to gardening than merely keeping pests at bay. Vista Mar Community Gardens in LA is Lizzie's safe space from a chaotic world. She loves the beauty, the order, the companionship she finds there. But a loophole discovered by a nasty neighbor threatens the garden, Lizzie's relationships with other members, and a budding romance. I can't stress enough how fun and accessible and approachable and readable and just lovely this book is. There's also a PS section with gardening tips and information, and the author is the founder of Garden Nerd, which is an online resource for gardeners. She holds regular organic gardening classes in California and specializes in small space organic garden design. Check it out. She's really cool, and this is a really fun book. Next, please. The Tobacco Wives. This is a historical novel set in 1946 during the ascendancy of big tobacco. It follows a young dressmaker, Maddie Sykes, who has moved to Bright Leaf, North Carolina, a prosperous tobacco town, to sew for the wives of the powerful tobacco executives. Brightleaf offers the promise of a new America after the war, bustling businesses, full employment, including female factory workers, all of it supported by the wealth of the burgeoning tobacco industry. But Maddie Sykes gradually comes to understand that the substantial health problems of the female factory workers are a result of the industry they all count on. She wants to report what she knows, but fears that the truth may also destroy the livelihood of the working women who become friends. This is carefully researched. It's informed by her family's history. There's themes of corporate fraud, post-war opportunities for women, abuse of workers, female friendship and motherhood. It's a great book club choice. And by the way, if anybody's watching American Rust with Jeff Daniels, this reminds me so much of that because there's a whole sideline story in there about this very subject. Side note. Thank you. Next. Okay. The Measure by Nikki Ehrlich. Would you choose to find out the length of your life if you could? It seems like any other day. You wake up, pour a cup of coffee, and head out. But today, when you open your front door, waiting for you is a small wooden box. This box holds your fate inside, the answer to the exact number of years you will live. From suburban doorsteps to desert tents, every person on every continent receives the same box. In an instant, the world is thrust into a collective frenzy. Where do these boxes come from? What do they mean? Is there truth to what they promise? As society pulls together and apart, everyone faces the same shocking choice. Do they wish to know how long they'll live? And if so, what will they do with that knowledge? This is an unforgettable cast of characters whose decisions and fates interweave with one another. Best friends whose dreams are forever entwined, pen pals finding refuge in the unknown, a couple who thought they didn't have to rush, a doctor who cannot save himself, a politician whose box becomes the powder keg that ultimately changes everything. This is upmarket blockbuster fiction. Think The Immortalists, The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. It's just terrific. That's The Measure by Nikki Ehrlich. And next, More Than You'll Know is second here. Okay, this is A Dance Leads to an Affair, leads to a marriage, leads to a murder. You know how that goes. This is about a woman who's caught leading a double life after one husband murders the other, and a true life crime writer who becomes obsessed with telling her story. And this is a great literary suspense. So it's first set in 1985. Dolores Rivera marries Andre Russo in Mexico City, even though she's already married to Fabian Rivera in Laredo, Texas. They share twin sons. And through her career as an international banker, she splits her time between two countries and two men until the truth is revealed and one husband is arrested for murdering the other. Fast forward to 2017, and we find the struggling true crime writer, Cassie Bauman, who encounters an article detailing the tragic final act, and she's immediately enticed by what is not explored. Why would a woman who seemed to have it all lead a double life? It's got great book appeal written all over it. Next, please. On Lasting a Home by Mai Al-Naqib. This 2013, we meet Sarah, who is a philosophy professor at Kuwait University, having returned to Kuwait from Berkeley in the wake of her mother's sudden death 11 years earlier. Her relationship with Kuwait is complicated. It's a country she always thought she would leave, and a country she recognizes less and less. And yet a certain inertia keeps her there. That when teaching Nietzsche, in her Intro to Philosophy course, leads to an accusation of blasphemy, which carries with it the threat of execution. She realizes she must reconcile her feelings and her place in the world once and for all. It ranges from the 1920s to the near present, and traces Kuwait's rise from a pearl diving backwater to its reign as a thriving cosmopolitan city in the aftermath of the Iraqi invasion. It is at once sweeping and intimate, a personal and political and an unforgettable epic, a spellbinding family drama. Next, please. The Caretakers by Amanda Bester-Siegel. Little Fires Everywhere is set in France. That's what this is. We're in an affluent Parisian suburb. An American au pair is led away in handcuffs after the sudden death of her young charge. The mother believes the young woman did it. The stories of 6 women involved with the family tell a more complex, darker truth. Set during the weeks leading up to the event, The Caretakers is a poignant, suspenseful drama about complicated women. It's an exploration of the weight of secrets, the pressures of country, community, and family, and misunderstandings that can have fatal consequences. This has got a lot of buzz. Elizabeth McCracken loves it. Julia Phillips loves it. I could go on. I don't have the time, but let me tell you, you're going to hear a lot about this one. Halfway mark. Okay, I'm ready. Next, please. Hope and Glory. By Jandela Benson. This novel is about a British-Nigerian immigrant experience with literary writing and great commercial hooks. Glory Akindele returns from LA for her father's funeral and her family is unraveling. When she stays to help, she starts questioning why her respectable but obsessively private Nigerian immigrant family is the way it is and stumbles across a secret. Her twin sister, Hope, who she thought was dead, was actually adopted by the white family who fostered her as a baby. The key here is the writing. Deft, thoughtful, genuinely funny. The author opens a door into the Nigerian immigrant community in England and what it means to the child of immigrants, fluent in two cultures and torn between them, and not the uncommon late 20th century practice of West African immigrants fostering out their children while they work to start lives in England. It is moving and provocative. It is often genuinely funny and entertaining. And it's a novel about what it is to be the child of immigrants, fluent in two cultures and torn between them. Next. Cover story by Susan Righetti. This is about a young woman who gets caught in a web of charismatic con artist alley. It's a dishy novel about scam culture. After a rough year, Laura Ricci gets a lifeline when she lands an internship at Elle magazine and hits it off with Kat Wolf, a contributing editor and the enigmatic daughter of a clean energy mogul. They become friends, and Laura also goes to work for Kat, hanging out at her opulent apartment by day and partying with her at night. But a dream come true starts to look like a nightmare when Laura close enough to see the cracks in Kat's glamorous facade. It is inspired by infamous world-class scammers like Elizabeth Holmes. Righetti writes a humorous, sharply observed story composed of diary entries, emails, FBI correspondence, news clippings, and text where the reader gets to solve the story. It's a fresh, fun, eye-opening novel about the dark side of the American dream. Next, please. The Game by Scott Kershaw, a white knuckle ride of a debut thriller for fans of John Mars, Adrian McKinty, and Steve Kavanaugh. The rules are simple. To save their life, you have to play. Dear player, the person you love most is in danger. To save them, you must play the game. The rules are there can only be one winner. If you lose, your loved one will die. Do not share this message. Do not seek help. Welcome to the game. You've just started playing. That's the end of the message. This is high stakes, pitch black, international thriller. You won't want to stop reading. The Game is John Mars. The One meets the Hunger Games. Next. I have two titles left. Blood Trials by N.E. Davenport. Magic and technology converge in this action-packed story of loyalty and rebellion. It's centered around a young Black woman who must survive deadly trials in a racist and misogynist society. This is the first installment of the Blood Gift duology. This is for fans of Greta Kelly and R.F. Kuang. And that is Blood Trials. And the last one, Daughter of the Moon by Sue Lin Tan. This is a debut own voices romantic fantasy inspired by the legend of the Chinese moon goddess Chong. Young Chin-si grows up exiled with her mother on the moon, but flees to the celestial kingdom. Disguising herself, she trains in magic and archery alongside the crown prince in hopes of learning how to free her mother. Eventually, she must challenge the ruthless emperor himself to achieve her dream. As I say, this is an own voices novel. This is good YA crossover potential and should appeal to the many indie fans of City of Brass and Frozen Crown. This is Voyager's spotlight title for the season, and as I say, part of a duology. I believe that is my last title. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you, Virginia. I just am dazzled by all these debuts. So many first-time novelists. It's so great. And speaking of first novels, it is my pleasure to give you, the audience, a sneak peek at Booklist's Top 10 First Novels list for 2021. We have a spotlight on first novels every year in our November issue, and it's one of my very favorites. You can find the full list at the link on this slide. Reviewing first novels is one of the most exciting assignments we have at Booklist. It's a thrill and a challenge to read and critique a first novel by a new author or by an author new to writing novels. It's a gamble for publishers to publish and to acquire and publish first novels. And it's been gratifying to see the blossoming of so many innovative writers of such diverse backgrounds. and points of view and artistic visions. I've been at Booklist a long time, and I will say that the current season is one of the strongest ever. We are writing a wave of first novels with a truly global reach and a heady variety of literary styles and forms, from multi-generational family sagas to sharp satire to mythic and magical tales. This year's top 10 list includes novels rooted in Africa, America, and Saudi Arabia. It includes tales of an avant-garde rock duo and two West Bank teenagers. Each of these debuts explores complex questions of self, society, and history with empathy, wisdom, wit, and literary excellence. Let's look at these top 10 novels. Here is the first, Black Buck by Matteo Ascarapour from Houghton. This biting and absurdist first novel, it's currently a bestseller and was a Read with Jenna Book Club Today Show pick, stars the only Black employee at a cult-like startup and sheds light on racism, corporate morality, media bias, gentrification, and many other hard-hitting social themes. Next, we have Bride of the Sea by Imen Kota. This is from Tin House. Kota's gripping tale about a family split between Saudi Arabia and the US portrays a husband, wife, and their daughter as they navigate immigration, cultural dissonance, and family separation over 4 decades. Next, we have Brother, Sister, Mother, Explorer by Jamie Figueroa. This is from Catapult. Figueroa's mystical and hypnotic first novel takes place over a weekend as a sister and brother grieve for their recently deceased mother as her ghost lingers. It's a very enigmatic tale. City of a Thousand Gates by Rebecca Sachs. This is from Harper. Set on the West Bank and vast in scope, Sachs's vibrant novel stars 2 ill-fated 14-year-olds, one Jewish, one Palestinian. It also compassionately illuminates the complexities and tragedies of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. The final, here we go, Ghost Forest by Picashuen Fung. This is from Ballantine, One World. Fung's spare yet fully polyphonic first novel has an unnamed narrator who had an astronaut family after she, her mother, sister, and grandparents moved to Vancouver before the British withdrew from Hong Kong in 1997 while her father stayed. I think, did we miss a slide? The final revival of Opal and Nev? Okay, we'll catch it later. Here we have Gold Diggers by Sanjina Santhian from Penguin. This is a really surprising and inventive novel. Among a sea of high-achieving Indian American high schoolers, barely average student Nirja hopes that alchemy of all unexpected things will help him meet his parents' high expectations. With magical realism, pathos, humor, and suspense, Santhian satires the steep cost of the all-American dream. Okay, Open Water by Caleb Abzuma Nelson. This is from Black Cat, which is from Grove. Nelson tells the story of 2 young Black artists in London falling in and out of love and learning how to be vulnerable in a society that refuses to allow it. Oh, here we go. Here's Opal, yay. The final revival of Opal and Nev by Donnie Walton. This is from Simon & Schuster. The first African-American and first woman editor-in-chief of a music magazine embarks on an oral history of Opal Jewel and Nev Charles, a 1970s interracial legend story of race, gender, and agency in art. And now we have the love songs of W.E.B. Du Bois by Honoré Fanon Jeffers. Audacious love song to an African-American family in which she juxtaposes a contemporary heroine named Allie and blood infuse the rich soil of Georgia. This book's getting a lot of attention, much deserved. And our 10th title, The Teller of Secrets by Bizi Adopon from Harper Via. This coming-of-age story set in politically charged 1960s Ghana and Nigeria, and narrated by a naive yet very feisty Nigerian Ghanaian girl, keenly dissects post-colonial turmoil in a strict patriarchal society. Top 10. And lastly, I want to remind all of you that the Carnegie long list credible list, the short list is being announced this coming Monday, November 8th. So check out the long list, watch for the short list. The Carnegie winners will be announced at Live Learn X on January 23rd on a virtual program. Watch for information about that, which will be forthcoming. Tomorrow, all attendees will receive an email containing links to today's slide presentation, the title list, certificate of completion, and video recording. For more about Booklist webinars, be sure to visit booklistonline.com/webinars, where you can view archives of our past programs and register for upcoming events like those you see here. Not yet a subscriber? Pair the page-by-page reading experience of print with the convenience of online access, online, digital, and archive access by taking advantage of this special offer. Please join us. And I'm so excited to prove free with a Booklist subscription, the Booklist Reader, Booklist's new digital-only magazine, highlighting diverse readers' advisory recommendations for all ages. Booklist Reader is here to see and share the latest issue, which is currently freely available to everyone online. Visit booklistonline.com/reader issues. We'd love to hear from you about Booklist Reader. It's for readers who come to the library looking for books. We feature a lot of books that are already in your collections. We hope you find this very exciting and useful, and I would love to hear from you about it. Thank you so much for joining us for today's webinar about firsts, about debut authors and debut titles. One more big thank you to our wonderful panelists and sponsors, Macmillan, Valerie Baeza, and HarperCollins. This concludes today's webinar. Stay well and see you next time.